In the last few videos, I've been talking a little bit about different sports card marketplaces and whether they're good places to sell your cards. Kind of ongoing series. I'm going to talk about a few places I have a little bit of experience with. And in this one, I'm going to talk about Facebook groups. This is not Facebook Marketplace, but Facebook groups. Let's get into it. So in our last video about Facebook Marketplace, I talked about a lot of things that are actually quite similar to Facebook groups, but there are some advantages to selling on Facebook groups over Facebook Marketplace, and they're kind of important ones. The biggest one being you can create a sense of community, you can become part of a community, and then you can start to have a better sense of people who are trustworthy. You never know, even on anywhere, you can never know for sure, but if there is somebody that's been contributing to the ongoing buying and selling in a Facebook group regularly, and other people have experience with them as a buyer or a seller, then generally, for the most part, you can kind of trust them. There are scams that will still happen, and as I said in my last video about Facebook Marketplace, there's less protections in place on some of these Facebook platforms than there are on like an eBay or a COMC or even a MySlabs or a buysportscards.com or something like that. There's less protections in place for the buyer or for the seller. You're still basing it on trust, but the difference between Facebook groups and Facebook Marketplace is that you can actually start to get a sense of who is trustworthy, that you can't really do in Facebook Marketplace. So it makes for a little bit of a better place, and you also are if you post on Facebook Marketplace, it's just going out into the ether. You don't know who's seeing it, but if you post in a Facebook group, especially one that's pretty active, then there's an active community of people who are looking to buy and sell on a regular basis. And if you're part of hundreds of people who are viewing this card, you have a better chance to actually sell your cards. That being said, the thing that makes me a little hesitant in this is a couple of things. The biggest one is, of course, the protection. Even if somebody's trustworthy there, if they, for whatever reason, they kind of lose track of they lose track of what they're doing, or something happens in their life, and they suddenly don't want to pay for the cards or whatever. There's not much of a recourse. If that happens in eBay, there's a process. You get your money back. They get some knock on their account. In a Facebook group, that doesn't necessarily happen. Somebody could have not been a not payer previously, and unless you can find that seller, you may not ever know that. So, there's still a certain degree of lack of protection in that space that you don't see anywhere else. There's positives too. You're not paying that percentage, that 13.25% that eBay takes. You don't have to pay that through a Facebook group, which is great. There's also some other advantages because you can take, pictures of a bunch of cards. You could, set up on your table, have 12 cards across here, take a picture like this and have a price for each of them. There could be a less amount of actual work. If you go onto eBay, you have to take, front and back of each card individually. Then you have to go through the process of posting each card, putting all the information about each card. Each individual card takes some time. And then once the sale happens, each individual card, you have to go through the process of packing. Now, you might have to do something similar in eBay in an eBay group, but it could be a little bit different because, for one, you're much more likely to have bulk buyers. If somebody's coming in and they're going to be paying and they see all these cards for sale at once, they're much more likely to be buying several at a time. I don't get that many bulk buyers on my eBay page. Every once in a while, maybe somebody will buy 2 or 3 cards and I'll package them together. But for the most part, it's individual cards that people buy on eBay most of the time. But with Facebook groups, I think it's more common that people will try to buy several at a time. So that saves some money on packing. That saves some time on packing. You don't have to go through each individual card posting, so it saves some time on that. So there are some advantages, and the percentage is also gone. And you could honestly have just as many eyeballs on your card in some Facebook groups as you do on eBay, honestly, because eBay, there's much more of an audience there for sure, but at the same time, there's a lot more supply. So your particular cards can get hidden in the mix of so many cards on there much more easily. Whereas on Facebook group, there's a finite number of supply. So the group that's in there, a lot of them are going to be seeing what you're posting. So you could end up getting more eyeballs on your cards in the Facebook group. It's totally possible. So, as I'm talking, I almost feel like I'm talking myself into selling more on Facebook groups. But I think the trust thing is the biggest thing, and the lack of protection, I think, is the biggest thing. You know, another thing I like about Facebook groups is like kind of what I was saying before, not just related to trust, but related to kind of like a community building type of thing. You know, like sports cards are a place where you can build community, but you can't do that in eBay. eBay's not set up that way. COMC is set up not even a slight bit like that, even worse, for building a community, a sense of community. But Facebook groups are actually set up with that is their strength. I mean, you are genuinely building a community of people who are all interested in some of the same things. And you're having some sort of communication with some of these people. I mean, sometimes it's very transactional, you know, but and that's still part of a community, I suppose. The transactional elements of a community are still part of a community. There might not be that much card and talk like there is on, you know, on some of the other spaces that are a little bit more like communication oriented and actually, you know, have spaces where you're participating in kind of community discourse. Maybe a sports card Facebook group that's not, you know, that's just for buying and selling doesn't have that as much, but it's still a community of sorts, which it's nice. It's nice to have that. But another negative thing, that if you don't have that interest at the beginning when your post has first gone up there, your post kind of falls down the list eventually, you know, and after a week or something, maybe nobody's really looking at it anymore. So it's kind of the way I would think about it. If I was using Facebook groups more frequently, what I would probably do is I would probably get a list of cards that I was going to put on eBay. I would, you know, take the pictures as if I was going to put them on eBay, but before putting them on eBay, put them up on a Facebook group that I have become familiar with, that I've already been participating in. I know some of the names, and I know that there's some efforts by the moderators to make sure things are trustworthy, like to really seek out a few of these types of Facebook groups, and then to post the pictures and the prices and things of the cards on that Facebook group, and then sell whatever I can for like a week, and after a week or so, take down that post and go ahead and post everything else up on eBay. I've already taken the pictures. This is probably the method that I would do. I'm not doing that method. This is just like theoretically the method I would do. But I think that takes some of the advantages of the Facebook group. But once the cards are falling down the list of posts and you're not getting much traffic on it, then move it over to eBay and sell the rest of the cards that didn't sell on eBay. So that might be a good strategy. It's a little bit of an extra step though. And I myself am trying to like weed out extra steps in the sports card world. I want to participate in sports cards in various ways. I want to be able to collect. Sometimes I want to be able to make these YouTubes, which is part of my engagement with sports cards. I want to be able to participate in sports cards in a lot of ways. And anything I do that adds an additional step to the way I engage with sports cards, it's gonna have to be that it takes away some of my time from sports cards in another way. So this is always kind of a push and pull. You have to figure out like what you want to spend your time on. I don't choose to spend much time in Facebook groups because of this reason. I don't want to add another thing when I already have a lot of different sports card related things going on and I have a limited amount of time. But I could see it being a good strategy if you used it in the right kind of way. Anyway, that's it for this video. In the next video, I'm going to talk about 2 different marketplaces that I think are also, you know, worth considering. So anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.